had my private brick and mortar office in San Carlos. I started doing coaching full-time back in 2002. Before that, I worked in mental health for about a decade. And so I've seen thousands and thousands of private clients over the years for both NLP and hypnosis, for confidence, fears, phobias, all kinds of things you can imagine, weight loss, smoking, stress, etc. I've been doing this a long, long time, trauma, everything you can imagine. But one thing that was really interesting is that when it came to anxiety or confidence, which is kind of the opposite side of that, right? So stress and anxiety is kind of the opposite side of confidence, right? Those clients were the most likely to not show up for their evaluation because many of them would get anxious about even coming to the evaluation. Right? They would get anxious about making decisions as well. So it's a really interesting topic. I think it's one that's really needed. And I will tell you, I've noticed a big uptick in the number of people that are struggling with confidence and stress and anxiety since COVID and since the lockdown. I'm noticing it in a lot of the clientele where they're not wanting to go back to work. They're struggling to interact with people just because they got out of practice with doing it. They didn't do it for a couple of years. One of the reasons I chose this as a topic is because I believe it's one of the number one things that causes people unnecessary suffering. And it's one of the number one things that kind of gets in the way of people feeling really good about themselves. Realize I only have an hour with you, so I've got to do the best I can within that period of time. So I'm going to give you 3 quickies, but this will give you a taste of what we can do. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. So let's talk about confidence. I'd like you to put in the chat, if you can, what you think confidence is. Like, what's your definition of confidence? I'm just curious to see what people think about all that. Securing yourself and your abilities. Confidence is your willingness to try, to take action, and treat yourself with compassion when you fail. Yep. Confidence is mindset. Confidence is support. Anyone else? Put your definition of confidence. According to the dictionary, it's the self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. Willingness to act. Well, that's a nice one, Raj. Feeling okay with who I am. I love that. Am I saying it right? Is it Taru? Taru. Okay, yeah, beautiful. Okay, great. Ellen said, thinking I can do something. Yeah, kind of like maybe believing in yourself. Yeah. Okay. So I get a lot of people, folks, that come to me and they say, hey, I want confidence. I want you to hypnotize me and give me more confidence, or I want you to do NLP and give me more confidence. Okay. And so I want to start off by talking about what I believe confidence is and what I believe is the antithesis of confidence, so we understand the problem before we go into the techniques. Then we'll do techniques and we'll do demos. Okay. I'm going to just try and make this as short and sweet as possible so it's super useful. I do not believe, now realize this is my opinion on this, but I do not believe that confidence is something that can be given. I don't believe that I can give you confidence. I don't believe that that's something that you can, hypnotize yourself into. I don't think that it's something that we can like inject or bestow upon you. And the reason I'm saying that is because I believe that confidence is really a natural, open state of your nervous system where there is not fear. It's simply the absence of fear. So when someone comes to me and says, hey, I want you to make me more confident, the way that I interpret that is there is fear that's getting in the way of them being their true selves. And if I can help them alleviate that fear, that nervous system is going to open up. And to me, when I'm working with a human being, I see that there are kind of 2 states of being that they're in, just to keep it really, really simple. You're either at any moment in time, you're either in an empowering state, that would be peace, love, joy, happiness, curiosity, playfulness. These are all states that naturally you would assume the person would be somewhat confident in as well, where the nervous system is nice and open. You're open, you're relaxed, you're breathing, you feel good being in your body. If you think about the places in your life and in your world where you feel the most comfortable, right? And your nervous system is nice and open and relaxed, this is that empowering state. So these are states that generally feel good for the most part. The other state of being is what we call a disempowering state. So this would be a state like fear worry, anxiety, overwhelm, confusion, apathy, anger, resentment, jealousy, bitterness, any state that doesn't feel good. And in that state, your nervous system is going to tighten up and be a bit more clamped up. Okay. And so when I'm working with a human being, if I'm doing influence or I'm trying to build rapport with them or I'm trying to work with them in any capacity, I'm always going to monitor and notice, is their nervous system open or is it closed? And so in my experience of working with clients who are dealing with a lot of fear or what they label as a lack of confidence, their nervous systems are tight. It is very hard for them to go into a social situation and relax or get up in front of a room and relax. And because of that, they get tight, their nervous system clamps up. They go into what Virginia Satir would have labeled as a coping mechanism for stress. And all of a sudden, your brain doesn't work. Reason and logic are not available to you. Has anyone had this experience where you start to get anxious, then all of a sudden your thinking doesn't work? Right? It's like you can't formulate basic thoughts. You might have prepared for your talk beforehand or for what you were going to say, and suddenly it's out the window and you can't seem to access that. That's all, in my book, just a symptom of your nervous system clamping down because you went into a coping mechanism for stress. You essentially went into fear. Okay? So that's really what's going on. Now, and I hope that kind of makes sense. So the next question then is, what causes us to go into fear in the first place? What's causing us to get fearful and to start to clamp down? And so this brings us to a little bit of a spiritual discussion about kind of like the meaning of life, our purpose here on earth, right? Go ahead and write in the chat what you think our number one purpose here is on earth from a biological point of view. What is our number one purpose from a biological point of view? Go ahead and put in the chat. Create life and develop those in the family. Yep, I would agree with that. Very close. To survive. Raj says to survive. Victoria says to continue the human race, to survive and procreate. Yes. Our number one biological drive is to stay alive long enough to keep life going. That's it. To stay alive long enough to keep life going. That's what's really driving us. And so when we hear these concepts of, and again, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but when we hear these concepts of like the ego, what is the ego? How does all that stuff get formed? And why is this stuff important to confidence? Here's why it's important to confidence, folks. What's causing that fear in your nervous system is the delta, the difference between who you believe you are and who you believe you need to be okay. That is the cause of the fear. That is why there is a lack of confidence. You will not find an unconfident toddler. Notice a toddler walks around. They are not equipped to handle the world. They're not equipped to handle situations. They don't know what they're talking about when they get in front of a room. But toddlers are not scared at all. They walk around. Their posture is open. Their heads are up. They're smiling at everyone. They're totally unthreatened. They're totally fearless because their nervous system is totally open. Why? Because they're not trying to be somebody they are not. So basic human biology dictates our number one biological drive is to stay alive long enough to procreate and keep life going. Because of that, we have three biological drives that we believe will help us fulfill that. Number one, avoid pain at all costs. We want to avoid anything that feels painful. And that could be real physical pain or something we perceive as painful, like rejection, exclusion, people not liking us, not getting a job, anything like that, right? These things that we associate as painful. And we chase anything that feels pleasurable. This is why doom scrolling on Instagram is so popular. Watching junky TV shows, right, is so popular and so enjoyable, or doing these other things that we use to numb or to escape or to try and get a quick dopamine hit. For some of us, it's buying things. For other people, it's alcohol and drugs. For other people, it's sex. But these different ways of trying to self-soothe ourselves. We're always chasing pleasure as well, because when we get a dopamine hit, when we do something and it feels really good in our nervous system, it's our unconscious validating that, hey, what you're doing is working, keep it up and keep going. Okay? The third biological drive is what we call the conservation of energy. But the real simplified way of looking at it is it's what looks like lazy behavior. It's taking the easy way out. And it's not because you're lazy, it's because our nervous system is designed to try and survive. And part of that is managing our energy so we don't waste it. So what happens is you get these ideas in early childhood. In early childhood, you make decisions that you're probably not conscious about at all until maybe you become an adult and maybe you go through a lot of personal development. But in early childhood, we all make decisions about who we think we need to be in the world in order to survive and to be okay. And some of us believe that we need to be free. That is the most important thing in order to survive and to be okay. Some of us believe we need to be safe and secure in order to survive and to be okay. Some of us believe the most important thing is to belong and to be liked and to be included by others. Others of us feel the most important thing is to be smart and to be competent, to be a little bit smarter than everybody else, so we can be a little bit ahead of the pack. And others believe we need to be very unique and special. And so you have all 5 of those drives in you, but I promise you one is stronger than the other. So again, we're talking about freedom, security, belonging, competency, and self-expressiveness. So you might ask yourself now, and feel free to put in the chat, which do you think is most important to you? And I promise you, you had an experience in early childhood where something happened and your mind made the decision, this, for Tony, belonging is the most important thing to make sure that I survive long enough to keep life going. For some of us, like Kyoko and like myself, it was competency. We had an experience where we decided, oh, you know what? I need to be a little bit smarter than the average bear. I need to be a little bit ahead of everyone else. And if I can do that, that will help me to relax and feel comfortable. For others, it was freedom. And so these things get wired into our nervous system, and this is what our ego is built around, to just try to oversimplify it. And so now what happens is, as we're growing up, we're trying to prove something about ourselves. If I am very high on the freedom thing, I am looking at experiences in life and I'm always trying to prove that I'm free. Or if I'm competency, I'm always trying to prove that I'm smart. And here's the problem. Ask yourselves this. When was the last time any of you tried to prove to anyone that you're alive and not dead? Put that in the chat. If anyone here has tried to prove to someone that they're alive and not dead, right? I assume nobody, right? Or if you're a woman, when was the last time you tried to prove to someone that you're a woman and not a man? Probably never, right? Or if you're a brunette, when was the last time you tried to prove to someone that you're a brunette and not a blonde? Probably, I don't put 25 years ago, right? But probably never. And why is that? Here's why. Because these things about us, the fact that you're alive and not dead, you fundamentally know are true. You absolutely know there's true. And there's not a bone in your body that doubts that at all. So think about what that means about you if deep down you feel you have to be smarter than the average person to be okay. If you feel you have to prove to yourself and to other people that you're smart enough to be okay, what that lets you know is it's subtly reinforcing another belief, which is that you're not smart enough. You're not good enough. If I have a need to be free, deep down, I'm afraid of being controlled and restricted and limited. And I'm afraid that I'm really not free. Julia.
Quick question. I'm just curious regarding the 5 decisions that you just mentioned, like from childhood, the decision that's made, is it usually linked to an unpleasant event in childhood that makes you feel like, okay, I need to be this to survive, or vice versa? Is there like a positive confirmation that, let's say, if I'm special and unique, then kind of I get what I need to survive?
Yeah, that's a great question. So oftentimes it's determined by one of 2 things. One would be a trauma, like Julia is talking about, where something bad happens to you, right? And you have some pretty strong, unpleasant experience. And then your nervous system goes, okay, I want to make sure that never happens again. So now I'm going to really focus on, for example, let's say someone takes advantage of me because I'm naive. My mind goes, okay, I'm never letting that happen again. I got to be smarter than the average bear. I got to be 5 steps ahead to stay safe and feel comfortable. The other way that can happen is in what we call an imprint experience. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you back out, Julia. An imprint experience is where there is some memory or event from the past that has a strong emotional component and decision that you make about yourself. Now, here's the thing, that can be positive or negative. So you can have an imprint experience where you hit a grand slam in baseball and you start to get lots of praise for doing that. And because of that, your mind says, okay, well, if I'm better at sports than everyone else, or if I'm really excellent or competent at sports, I'm going to get lots of love. That's going to give me what I want. Okay. But let's be honest, most of us who are here with stress, pressure, and anxiety, we had some unpleasant experiences in the past that are driving this. And it can also be a hand-me-down from your parents. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you had to have something bad happen to you. Just realize that when you are feeling stress and pressure and anxiety, it is you talking to yourself in your head, worried about whether or not you're going to be okay. You feel threatened. You are feeling fear. And what's causing that fear is there is a difference between where you think you are and where you think you need to be in order to be safe and in order to be okay. This is why many spiritual approaches have you get what we call right-sized or grounded or relax into accepting yourself as you really are. Okay, accepting yourself as you really are doesn't mean you throw in the towel and stop doing personal development work. It just means you stop addictively demanding that you be better than you are in order to be okay. And there's a big difference because there's basically two ways to go about your life. One is, I'm not going to be okay until I get that stuff. So I'm stressed, anxious, miserable, high blood pressure, and just life sucks basically as I'm trying to catch up and I can never, of course, catch up, right? How many people have felt like that? It's like you're trying to get ahead to get to that baseline. You can never get there. Anyone have that kind of feeling before? Yeah, a lot of us, right? Okay. Or you start from the orientation of, all is well. I have everything I need. I have nothing to prove. I am already okay as is. And guess what? I'm still going to pursue, if I'm competency based, I'm still going to want to be more competent. I still will want to set goals. I still will want to achieve those goals. But now I can do it from a more relaxed and easy fashion because I know I don't need it. I'm not delusionally telling myself there's some other place I need to be that's so far off and I need to be there in order to be okay. And what we notice is in coaching is the difference, the greater the distance between where you are and where you think you need to be, and the more you believe you need that to be okay, the more miserable you will become as a result. Does that make sense? Okay. So what we're doing is in the coaching process, if you're learning neurolinguistic programming or if you're using hypnosis, you can use it to get into the state of feeling more confident. But the way we do that is we do that by stripping away the unwarranted fears that you have. The fear that who you see when you look in the mirror is somehow not good enough or not worthy or not safe. We want to remove those fears systematically. Okay. And those fears can live inside of a trauma. And if so, we have a very unique process for resolving a trauma. Those fears can be manifested in the form of a limiting belief. And so if you have limiting beliefs, which is a story you tell yourself about what's possible for you in the world or in the future. And here's the interesting thing about limiting beliefs. Okay. What makes a limiting belief is pretty basic if you understand how it works. You had an experience early on in life, like that imprint experience we talked about, or maybe one of those traumas, and you then had a strong feeling. You told yourself a story about what it meant. I remember getting kicked out of Leprechaun books in third grade, maybe second grade. And my teacher said, sorry, you're just not keeping up with the class. You need to get out of Leprechaun books. And I remember that moment, and I remember telling myself in that moment, you know what? I wonder if this means other people are smarter than me and I'm not as smart. And I made a decision about myself. Well, once you make a little decision like that, guess what your mind does? We have this beautiful thing in our minds that's like a honing, it's like a GPS, and it looks for things, and it's called the reticular activating system. And so now this reticular activating system in my mind goes, okay, I'm not as smart as other people. I'm a little bit slower. And when I have that thought or I tell myself that story, my mind, like a waiter going and fetching me whatever I order, it goes, got it. And now it looks at my experience. And realize, folks, if you take the basic free NLP intro class that we offer on NLPCA.com, you'll walk through the NLP map. You'll learn that there's about 2 million bits of information coming at us at any 1 second. But our conscious minds really can focus on about 5 at a time, give or take. Out of 2 million, about 5. Translation, whatever you're looking for, folks, you're going to find, right? How many people here shop on Amazon? Right? Because you know you're going to find what you're looking for, right? And you know you're going to find plenty of options and plenty of choices. Well, guess what? We have this vast reservoir of experience that as we go through life, it's all around us. They say in an urban environment, and this was true 20 years ago, so this is like almost pre-cell phones. In an urban environment, you're bombarded with 1 million pieces of advertisement per day. There is so much information around us all the time. It's like we live in a Las Vegas casino. Okay. But there's these 2 million bits of information. We can track maybe 5, which means whatever you tell your mind to find, it will. And so now if you tell yourself, you know what, I'm a little slower than other people, I'm not as smart, my mind is now looking for examples of how that is true. And then if, oh, here's one, and then here's another one, and then here's another one, and then here's another one, and pretty soon I've got 5 of those, maybe 7 of those, maybe 9 of those, then guess what? It starts to create what we call an attractor basin for experience. And now I'm more and more likely to keep having that same experience of, see, I'm not smart enough. See, I'm a little bit slower than other people. And it's simply because I'm tuned into it. You know, if you take a radio and you tune it into classical, guess what? You're going to hear Beethoven at some point, okay? Because you're there. You're tuned into classical. But if you tune into hip hop, you're going to hear hip hop. So whatever we tune our minds into, whether we're conscious of it or not, we get that. So don't be discouraged if you feel like you've been living the same reality over and over again. Of course you have. Why? Because that's what you're tuned into. So a lot of what we can do is we teach you NLP, and as we teach you some of the techniques that you can learn about how to rewire your mind, as we teach you how to tune into something different. And the minute you do that, you start finding evidence to support that new belief. And then that stacks up. And then pretty soon that now becomes your new reality. So you can change beliefs, folks, for sure. And the main belief that we're working on tonight is we want to eliminate this belief that somehow you're not wonderfully perfect and totally okay just as you are. I really believe that to be true. I really know that to be true. I don't know if anyone on here has done this, but I had the benefit of doing a 10-day, what's called Vipassana meditation retreat. I've done 2 of those, where for 10 days you're meditating. You don't read, you don't write, you don't look anyone in the eye. You meditate from 4:30 in the morning to 10 at night. And they call it like a psychic surgery. And there's this letting go because your mind is looking for things to grasp onto. And all you're doing is you're noticing what's going on in your body, reality as it is. And I can't tell you why, but during both of those experiences, sometime around day 6 or 7, I had a profound experience of grace. And literally, I can honestly say this, that if God had come down in that moment and said, all right, Robert, anything you want. You want to be thinner, richer, taller, more hair, you know, on your head, anything like that, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I felt totally and profoundly okay as is. Okay. And if you have a fear that getting into that state means you're going to suddenly do less or lose your momentum or become a couch potato, I can promise you, I've never seen it happen with one client in over 23 years. What it does is it actually removes those shackles that hold clients back. And I see clients start to take flight or start to get breakthroughs in areas where they couldn't get it before. Okay. So with that said, I hope I've sold you on the idea that you are enough as is, even though physically it may not feel that way at times, but start to wrap your mind around that and realize that You know, whatever you tune into, that's what you're going to get. If I send you all to the mall right now and say, I want you to find 5 examples as you walk throughout the mall, as you talk with people, and I'm going to ask you to answer this in the chat. Okay, then we're going to go into the demos here. But if I asked you, if I said, if you went to the mall right now, could you find 5 examples if you interact with people of people rejecting you? How many people think you could do it? Raise your hand if you think you could do it. All of us could, right? We could walk up to people, oh, they didn't say hi back. This person didn't look at me when I entered the store. We could easily find 5 examples of where, you know, or 10 examples of where people are rejecting us. Okay. But notice what's equally true. If I said, go to the same mall and I want you to walk around and interact with people and find 5 examples or 10 examples of where people are accepting to you or friendly with you, could you do it? Absolutely. So that is proof positive that you can dial in and serve up any experience that you want. So what's really driving the show is your own internal orientation and whether or not you believe you're good enough, believe you're worthy, and believe you're safe or not. So if you don't, that's fear, and we want to get rid of that fear. Okay, so I've got, there's so many things I could show you, but I'm going to teach you 3 really like just stupid, simple techniques that you can use. Okay. Now, before I do that, I want to show you the communication pie chart. And maybe some of you have seen this before, maybe some of you haven't. Let's find out. But I want to show you this communication pie chart real quick. Now, this is something that I cover in more depth in the How to Read and Lead course, but whenever you're communicating with another human being, and this is where most of us want confidence, right? Most people want confidence with other people. It's not just with themselves, but some of us want it with ourselves, but even still, it's the same deal. So you probably heard this before. 7% of your communication is the actual words that you say, the actual words that come out of your mouth, the digital message if you were to write it down. It's a very small part of what we're really communicating when we interact with another human being. 38% is how you say it, your voice tone, your tempo, your pitch, your timbre, your inflection, your pace, your volume, your emotion. 38% is how you say it. So if I said to Kyoko, if I said, oh, Kyoko, you know, I love your hair. It looks really nice. Notice that has a very different meaning than if I say, Kyoko, I like your hair. Yeah, it looks really nice, right? I'm saying the same thing, but has a totally different meaning. You can hear the voice tone change. If I say, Kyoko, I love your hair. Looks very nice. That's kind of maybe even creepy and scary. I don't know. But it's just totally different vibe, obviously. And I know I'm exaggerating it, but y'all get the point. The voice tone, tempo, pitch, timbre, inflection, pace, volume, and emotion. 55%, folks, is your body language, eye contact, posture, gestures, facial expression. So, how can we use this? Here's how we can use this. The way to simplify all this down to a very usable format, folks, is 93% of what you are always communicating with another human being. 93% is how you really think and feel right now. It's literally how you feel in your body right now when you walk into a room. 93%. And here's the thing. Remember, we're all biologically wired to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and take the easy way out. So if people feel good when they're around you, they want more. If people feel tense and anxious when they're around you, they want less. If you feel good when you think about doing something, you want to do it more. Make sense? If you feel tight and anxious when you think about doing something, you want to do it less. I believe one of the most ethical ways to think about adults is we are all, myself included, toddlers in suits and dresses showing up at a place called work or church or the community gathering or the mall or whatever, wanting to be liked and wanting others to share their toys with us. And so when we get around a person who makes us feel good or what I call yummy, we want more of that. It feels good. You ever wonder why, like when you walk into a liquor store in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the middle of winter, there's a life-size cutout of like a 20-year-old girl in a bathing suit holding a 6-pack of beers? Anyone ever seen anything like that before? And you're like, what is up with that? It's because when that average Joe walks in there, he sees this beautiful woman and he feels this yumminess in his body, and she's holding a 6-pack of, let's say, I don't know, Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. And then he walks up to the cooler and he opens it up and he goes, "Oh, what do I want today?" And then he sees the Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. And it reminds him of that really good feeling he just had when he walked in and saw the poster. So he grabs that and he takes it back to the clubhouse with the guys. And then the guys say, "Well, hey, why did you buy Pabst Blue Ribbon beer?" And he goes, "I don't know. I just felt like it." But it was the power of association. We want to be around things that make us feel good. Why do you spend an exorbitant amount of money on a purse when you probably already have one at home, or maybe 4 or 5 that carry the same amount of stuff and work just fine because of how it makes us feel? And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that, but I just want to point out that what's really driving us is how we feel in interactions. And so one of the things that you can start to do when you enter a room and you go to talk to somebody is notice how you physically feel in your body before you go and you communicate. And so we've got a couple of things here that's going to help you change the way you feel in your body. But that's essentially what we're doing. Now, I have a whole technique for what we call dialing in the yum, where you can do it with a complete stranger and build a really fast rapport with them and confidence with them. And it's not super complicated, but I don't have too much time to go into that tonight. So I'm going to teach you 3 shorter techniques. Okay. But just realize this from now on, when you walk into a room. So if you go to work tomorrow, or if you're going out on a date, or if you're going to go see your loved one, stop first before you enter the room and notice, how do you feel in your body? How do you physically feel in your body? Do you feel happy? Do you feel sad? Do you feel tight? Do you feel loose? Do you feel anxious? And if you do, use one of the techniques that we're going to walk you through here in just a minute. Okay. So if you can, folks, I'm going to invite you to stand up for this first exercise that we're going to do. And like I said, these are going to get a little bit more avant-garde as we go through them. But the first one is what's called the power physiology reset. So remember, I said 55% is your body language, right? Now, we all know that our mental state will affect our body. And in NLP coaching, one of the things that's really interesting is when someone comes in and they're depressed or they're anxious or they're sad, I'll have them practice getting depressed over and over again. And when I do, I notice they go into the same physiology every single time, right? If you were to get depressed right now, you'd have to look down and slump over, and you would literally have to like slump your shoulders and look down to do it. And I'm not going to ask you to do that, but you can try it after tonight's call. But try and get yourself depressed 3 times in a row and then snap out of it, move your body around, or step back into this confidence posture I'm going to teach you. And you'll notice there's a certain set of physical moves you have to do with your body to get into that unwanted state. So your physical body gives you access to states, and it also can lock you out from other states of mind. So the first one is, just notice this, folks. So everyone, if you're looking straight forward, take your eyes and put your eyes up on the ceiling so that you're looking above the horizon point. And with your eyes looking above the horizon point, try and get depressed. Just keep your eyes up. The only rule is you have to keep your eyes up above horizon. Try to get depressed. And what you'll find out is you can't access that part of your brain. When you're depressed, it's internal auditory dialogue. You have to talk to yourself in your head and try to convince yourself of an alternate reality. So you have to look down, and usually to the right and to the left. If I look down to the right, I'm talking to myself. If I look down to the left, I'm accessing inner feeling. And I have to do both back and forth. So if you get depressed, you'll have to do that. If you look up and you take your eyes above horizon, you can't do it. It literally doesn't work. So I just want to point that out. That's not the first technique, though. So, all right, the first technique is called the power physiology reset. Let me make it just a little bit bigger so I can see it more easily. And what I want you to do is I want you to stand tall. Everyone stand tall, shoulders back, chin slightly up. Take up the space in the room. Again, your eyes looking above the horizon. We're going to hold this posture for 2 minutes. I'm going to have you do some breathing while you're doing it. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to breathe in for 4 counts through our nose. Then we're going to hold for 7. And then we're going to exhale for 8. through our mouth. We're going to do that 4 times starting now. So stand up, shoulders back, stand tall, chin slightly up. Another way to think about it is stand how you would stand if you were totally confident. If you were totally confident, totally assured, you felt amazing. And don't worry about if it looks goofy because we're all doing it. All right, eyes up. Now breathe in through the nose for 4 counts. Here we go. 4, hold it for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale slowly out the mouth for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold that posture, shoulders back, stand tall, chin up. Do it again. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. Again, shoulders back, chin up, stand strong. Stand like you're standing when you're totally confident, totally assured. Breathe in through the nose for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. One more time. Shoulders up, back, chin up, stand strong. Take up the space in the room, elbows out. Here we go. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. Okay. Now shake that out and just check out. Notice how you feel in your body. Go ahead and put it in the chat. Notice how you feel in your body. That seems like a super basic or obvious exercise, but we know that if you hold that physiology for about 2 minutes, it's going to shift your state. How many people feel significantly different? Maybe more relaxed, maybe more calm, maybe a little bit more confident, energized. Exactly. That breathing technique is called 478. It was developed by Dr. Andrew Weil. And if you get anxious, if you feel like you're having a panic attack, anything like that, that 478 breathing works incredibly well. You breathe in through the nose for 4 counts, hold it for 7, then exhale like you're exhaling out of your mouth slowly for 8. And if you do 4 of those in a row, it will get your nervous system to go from clamped up, or what we call sympathetic, to open back up and go parasympathetic. If you combine that with standing like you're confident, standing stronger, shoulders back. Yeah, Julie's saying felt stronger, more powerful. Yvonne says energetic and ready to dance. Raj says re-energized. Kyoko says calm and energetic. Katya says strong. If you stand that way and you hold that posture for 2 minutes, it is going to shift your physiological state. So realize, folks, your first way to quickly change your state is just change your physiology. Get yourself up. Get yourself in that position, chin up, eyes above the horizon. Notice you can't get depressed when you do that. It will not work. And one of the reasons why I love to teach this to clients who like suffer from depression at the beginning is just realize once I teach them that one move, they never have to be stuck in a depression again. Now they may choose to stick in it, which is fine. You might choose to ride that roller coaster of feeling, but they know they have an ability to get out of it. That's very, very easy. So that's our first exercise, the power physiology reset. So the second one is very similar to what I call the audio submo swap, but it's a little different. If you take the free course, you can learn about the process called submo swap. It's really great for transforming like a negative internal voice. If you have that, or if you have some memory that feels really unpleasant, it'll change it really quickly. Just go to the website, download the free course to get submo swap. But this one is called inner dialogue redirect. Okay. And for this one, here's what I want you to do. I want you to notice the voice in your head when you're not confident. So now I'm going to ask everyone to get not confident. Get your body into a not confident state. And I want you to pay attention to what you have to do to switch from where we just were into a non-confident state. You probably have to slump over, and I guarantee you have to look down in order to be able to do it, or at least side to side, but it's not going to be looking up. Remember, if you look up again, it won't work. So just remember that. So notice the voice in your head when you're not confident. Is it critical? Is it worried? Notice what it says to you. And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to notice, where's the voice coming from? Does it feel like it's coming from like inside your head, or does it feel like it's coming from outside of your head? If you only heard it in one ear, would you hear it in your left ear? Or would you hear it in your right ear? Who can share with me? I'm just curious. I'm curious, who's willing to share with me what's the voice that you hear in your head right now? It's most of the time, folks, when we have our inner critical voice, it's like a little tape. It's like a little tagline almost, like you can't do that, or things will never work out, or I'm not good enough. Who's willing to share that with me? I'd just be curious to play with this a little bit, see if we can quickly transform it. I want to walk one of you through it. Okay, Kyoko, go and unmute yourself. Is it okay if I pin you real quick? Yep.
I hear someone's the voice is from outside, and the voice is saying, I can't understand what you're saying.
Okay, and you hear someone, is it you hear someone saying, I can't understand what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that someone is telling me I can't understand what I am saying, what
Okay.
you are saying.
And then what do you say to yourself when you hear that?
Shocked. Oh, I cannot so I shouldn't speak in English. That is English.
Okay, so I shouldn't speak.
Mm.
I shouldn't speak. So that's the voice. So hear that in your mind's ear, I shouldn't speak, and tell me if that's the one that has the sting. What is more emotional sting, when you hear that or when you hear someone else say, I can't understand you?
Yeah, someone says I can't understand me, and that is especially in English language, not in my native Japanese language, but in English, I hear that voice, and suddenly I just can't move,
Okay, great. All right, good. And you feel
I
like it's
freak
coming.
out.
Okay. And if you only heard it in one ear, your left ear, right, which one would you hear it in?
Right.
Okay. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the worst, how bad is it?
The worst is 10, you said?
Worst is 10, yeah.
10.
It's about a 10. Okay, great. And you said you hear it in your right ear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead and move it over and only hear it in your left ear. And then re-rate it for me on a scale 0 to 10. Whatever it is, honestly. If it's the same, that's fine. If it's better, if that's fine. If it's worse, it goes down to a 5. Okay, great. All right. So one of the first things to do, folks, is hear where the voice is coming from and just move it around. Okay. Now, was it coming from inside you or outside you?
Outside.
Outside. Try hearing it come from inside and tell me if it's better, worse, or the same.
It is 4.
So it's like a 4. So it's a little bit better. Okay, great. Now what I want you to do is I want you to hear the same saying, but in a voice tone that sounds like someone who absolutely adores you. I want you to hear it in a really enjoyable tone of like someone who absolutely adores you.
2.
It's like a 2. Okay, it goes down to 2. Try the goofy voice. Remember we tried that before? Remember, folks, Walt Disney's Goofy? I don't understand you. Try hearing goofy voice. Notice how it feels there.
1.
1. Okay, good. Yeah. Now, the other thing that we can do, folks, is, remember the physical sensation of feeling scared and feeling excited is almost entirely identical. So the physical sensations of being nervous and being excited are almost entirely identical. What often is different is the story we tell ourselves about this. So if you're in a situation where you feel nervous, you can tell yourself, I feel excited. Okay. If you ask performers, the best performers who love performing, they get excited before they go on, and performers who have stage fright get nervous before they go on. But the physical sensations are quite the same. They're almost completely identical. The difference is the story and the meaning. But here, what we're doing is we're just playing around with how you hear it in your brain. Okay. All right. So now just tell yourself, I'm excited. Tell yourself I'm excited. If you were feeling nervous before, reframe that feeling to excited. Okay. The other thing you can do is the other way to play with your voice is you can add a power phrase to it, like, I've got this. This is my moment. Everything I say makes sense. Some empowering tagline that you could add in there. What would be an empowering line that you could add in there, Kyoko, for yourself?
You can say once more. It's not about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like if you replaced, right? So instead of hearing like, they don't understand me or I don't understand you, right? What's something empowering that you could say to yourself in that moment? Like, this is my moment to be understood.
Smile.
It's mine.
Smile.
Smile.
Smiling. Mm.
Okay. Try hearing that. Try hearing smile.
Mm. And try again. Yeah, try again.
Smile and try again.
Mm.
Okay, good. All right. So this second technique, folks, is called the inner dialogue redirect. Okay. And it's really about how to change your brain's interpretation to what you're hearing. So again, you notice the voice in your head when you're not confident. Is it critical? Is it worried? First, change where you're hearing the voice come from, inside or outside, left ear or right ear. You can imagine hearing it twice as fast. You can imagine hearing it twice as slow. You could imagine it coming from a little cricket down on the ground in front of you. And then you could also play with the voice tone. You could hear Goofy's voice. You could hear a sexy, sultry voice. That's my personal favorite. Works great for me. I love to hear my critical voices in Demi Moore's voice. It works really, really well for me because it makes me feel totally different and yummy when I hear it. And the whole goal is to play around with it. Now, why does this stuff work? Here's why. Because in neurolinguistic programming, we have the belief that the unconscious will always make the best choice available to it at the time. So if we give your unconscious a better option or a better choice, it'll automatically default to the better option or the better choice. And so a lot of what we're doing with NLP processes is we're adding in more choice for your unconscious mind about how it can feel about a particular situation. And the most extreme version of this is in the case of trauma. In the case of a trauma, what's happening is a past event is being experienced as a present day threat. So when we do the NLP process that we use to help someone resolve trauma, what it does is it then takes that memory and it puts it into a distant memory position in the mind. So instead of feeling like a present day threat, now it feels like a distant memory. And once we give them that option, that different way of feeling, their unconscious will automatically accept it and choose that over the other one, unless there's some concern about that. So if you had a safety concern or what have you, then that feeling may not shift because your body believes you need it to be on guard. But assuming it doesn't and you've done the healing, it shifts and it permanently stays that way. So just realize, folks, you don't have to change what you're hearing in your mind. If you try to change what you're hearing, what you probably notice is what many of us notice: it gets worse and it gets louder. Instead, change how you hear it. Hear your critical voice twice as fast. Hear your critical voice twice as slow. Hear it in a different voice tone. If you hear it in the right ear, hear it in the left ear. Okay? Tell yourself a different story about what you physically feel in your body. Think about it. Being scared, what happens when you're scared in your body? Blood pressure goes up, right? Palms might get a little sweaty. You might feel a little weak around the knees. Do you think you'd feel the same thing if you just won $10 million in the lottery? You think you'd have to sit down for a minute? Do you think your heart rate would go up? What about the first time you got asked out on a date? Did your heart rate go up? Did you feel a little bit sweaty in the palms? Did you feel a little bit weak around the knees? Probably. So don't be afraid of what you're feeling, but be very curious about the story you're telling yourself about what these things mean in your mind. All right. So let's go on to the last one. Is called Circle of Excellence. So for this one, I'm going to ask you all to stand again, and we're going to create a powerful anchor, and I'll show you how to use this. So before we get into it, you might want to think of a context where you would like to be more confident. So think of some area in your life where you want to be more confident than perhaps you are right now. So think of some context, get some context in your mind, maybe at work, maybe with a loved one, maybe pursuing your business or going out into public or social situations. Maybe it's with certain family members or distant relatives. But think of some context and go ahead and set it aside, okay? Now, as you're standing where you're standing, again, you're going to stand up straight, shoulders back just like we did before. take up the room, chin up, eyes above the horizon. And I want you to go back to a memory in time. Go back to a time in your life when you felt really confident, even if it was only for a moment. Remember sometime, could have even been a time as a child. Go back to a time when you felt really, really confident, like abundantly confident, really confident. Pick a memory, pick a moment. And when you've done that, I want you to see what you saw, hear what you heard, and allow that feeling of confidence to build in you. Really feel it in your body. And so you imagine you're there now. You see what you saw as if you're there now. Hear what you heard, feel what you felt. Be there fully and completely. Make sure you stay looking up. You don't necessarily need to see me because I'm not going to be showing you anything as I'm doing this, but really be there now. That time when you felt really confident, really confident. You see what you saw, you hear what you heard, you allow that feeling of confidence to build in you. Pick a good one. And as you do that, as you feel that confidence building, I want you to imagine a colored circle on the floor around your feet. You can just do it in your mind's eye and answer yourself, what color would you like your confidence circle to be? Make it vibrant, make it powerful. What color would you like your confidence circle to be? Make it vibrant, make it powerful. Standing in this confidence position that we practiced earlier, shoulders back, chin up, eyes looking above horizon. Just imagine that color, that circle around you. You can imagine even a bubble around you if you want. And then I want you to add in a sound. A sound. So it could be a sound like you're hearing like a soft hum that indicates how powerful it is. It could be a saying that you say to yourself, I got this, bring it on. But hear a sound that goes with this feeling of being really, really confident, really comfortable, really secure. See the color, hear the sound, intensify the feeling. Intensify the feeling. When you feel the feeling of confidence at its fullest, really notice the sensation. Notice where it is in your body. Feel your body strong, upright, shoulders back, chin up. Where is it in your body? Notice what it feels like to be really, really confident. Get a strong sense of that. And then when you're ready, I want you to step out of that circle and leave those confidence feelings inside the circle. I know this is an unusual request, but you can definitely do it. All right. Now what we're going to do is I want you to select your cues. So I want you to think of that time where you want to be more confident. Okay? Think of that time for a minute and see and hear what will be there just before you want to feel confident. Okay? See and hear what will be there just before you want to feel confident. If you want to feel more confident when you're going up to do public speaking, what will you see and hear just before you go up on stage? If you want to be more confident as you go out on a date, see and hear what you'll feel just before you meet your date. Like maybe you see the door and you imagine knocking on the door before they answer because you're there to pick them up. Okay. If it's at work, you want to be more confident at work. Maybe you see the doorway to your office as you enter the doorway and the automatic doors slide open, for example. Okay. So as soon as those cues are clear in your mind, think about those cues, what you're going to see and hear just before you want to feel confident. Then what I want you to do is step back into that circle. Step back into that circle and feel those confident feelings again. So step right back into that circle, stand upright, shoulders back, chin up. See that color, hear that saying or that sound in your mind, like I got this or bring it on. Take that deep breath in and imagine you have it in this situation. Feel those confident feelings again. And imagine this future situation unfolding around you with these confident feelings fully available to you. Get a strong sense of that. If you're at work, you might imagine walking throughout work just feeling this way, standing up straight, chin up, shoulders back, elbows out. If it's getting on stage, you might imagine yourself doing that. And then when you're ready, step out of the circle again, leaving those confident feelings there in the circle. And then what we're going to do, folks, to test it is shake it off for a minute. Ask yourself, what's your favorite flavor ice cream? So you might ask yourself, what's your favorite flavor ice cream? We call this a state break in NLP. Then what I want you to do is I want you to test it. Think of that upcoming context again that you had chosen before, whether it's going to work, whether it's going out on a date, whether it's getting up and doing public speaking, and notice how it feels now. Okay, and I'd love to hear your feedback in the chat room on this. Now, let me show you how to beef this up too. Okay, so when we get off the horn tonight, you can take this document. I'm going to put the document through the chat now. And what you can do is you can stack 2 or 3. So we call this circle of excellence. Okay. For you, it's a confidence anchor if we're working on confidence, but we call this process circle of excellence. And so what you do is, in this case, we're working on confidence. So you can take 2 or 3 examples of when you felt really confident. And you can imagine being in that moment, feeling really confident. See what you saw, hear what you heard, feel what you felt. And get in the physiology. Get your body dialed in the way you were in that moment when you felt really confident. And as you really start to feel it, imagine that circle around you. Imagine that circle and that color around you and hear the sound. See the color, hear the sound, and connect it. And you can add another one and another one and another one. You can also imagine the circle out in front of you. And then when you start to get another experience number 2 and you start to feel it, you step into the circle and then you build that anchor up. We call this an anchor in NLP. This is a physical association in the body. Okay. So you've got 3 techniques to play with, folks. I know that I covered a lot in a little bit of time. Now realize this is not shifting a limiting belief. Okay. If you want to learn how to shift a limiting belief, you could watch the video I've already done on YouTube called How to Rewire Your Mind. I literally go through that process step by step on there on how to shift a limiting belief. If you have traumas or imprints that are lingering from the past, that might be something that you want to pursue private coaching for. We also have the NLP practitioner certification training that you can learn the fundamentals of NLP. But the course, the #1 course to very quickly learn about these personalities I've talked to tonight, learn how to dial in the yum, learn how to be extremely influential in any group that you're a part of, whether it's your romantic partnership, whether it's your family at home, whether it's your work or your team, is the course called How to Read and Lead Yourself and Others with Integrity. It is my #1 personal development course that I sell. So with that said, this is the tip of the iceberg. If you haven't taken the free NLP course, definitely take that as well. If you are interested in private work, you can go to nlpca.com/eval and set up a private meeting with me to find out about coaching. I do encourage you, if you have an interest in this course, and if you work with professionals and you want to learn how to read them, how to communicate effectively, and how to work with yourself and not get stuck, that's the course. And there's everything in there from ego formation, shifting limiting beliefs, how to not get stressed and anxious. It's the same stuff I do in a stress reduction program, but it's also a professional skill set. And some of you might be able to get your company to pay for it. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to open up any questions before we wrap up. You can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask away. This is your opportunity.
I'm curious, what are the major differences between, for instance, this program and let's say the NLP practitioner certification?
Great question. So the NLP practitioner certification is going to teach you the fundamentals of neurolinguistic programming. So it's going to teach you all the fundamentals. So will you be more influential at the end of that? Absolutely. You're going to learn about how to get and maintain rapport. You're going to learn about reactions and responses. We teach that in both programs. You will learn strategies. You'll learn NLP processes. You'll learn NLP techniques, how to get a well-formed outcome. So for a lot of people starting on their personal development journey, the practitioner is a great place to go. Now, I recommend you do both at some point. The only question is, which one do you do first? If you are looking to personally get unstuck as fast as possible, shift limiting beliefs, stop getting in your head, stop sabotaging yourself, do How to Read and Lead.
Mm.
Okay. If you
Good.
need to be more influential, so if you're leading others, if you're managing others, if you're not getting the results you want in your communication with others, whether it's a relationship or something like that, definitely do How to Read and Lead. If you're pretty happy and things are going pretty well, or influence isn't something that's a real big priority to you, or if you feel like, yeah, I feel like I'm doing good, I got things pretty much sorted out, and you just want to add to your skill set of things you can notice, then take the NLP practitioner certification. Like I said, I recommend both ultimately, but the reason I created How to Read and Lead is there was a big gap missing. I took the practitioner, the master practitioner, I took a bunch of advanced courses in neurolinguistic programming. And then when I went out to work with clients, there was something missing in my ability to get consistent results with real people with real problems. And one of the things I realized was missing was if I listened to you and I understood where you were getting stuck and I knew the NLP technique that you needed, there was an extra layer that really was required to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And that's your personality. Think of your personality like this beautiful river that flows throughout your life. It has its own unique twists and turns. And you all know this because if you have a significant partner or a friend or a loved one or a sibling in your life, there's things that stress them out that don't seem to bother you so much. And there's things that bother you that don't seem to stress them out too much. And that we have some of these kind of unique differences. That's your personality, and it flows like a river, which means if you approach a goal in a way that lines up with your personality, it'll feel very easy. It'll feel like floating downstream. Things will come naturally to you. These are the areas we feel kind of gifted or lucky or well endowed in. And the areas in your life where you feel like you're banging your head against the wall and you keep getting stuck and it feels like you're swimming upstream and getting exhausted and not getting anywhere, these are the areas where you're fighting your personality. And so as I started to model this out and I was developing this technology, I realized that there are 5 different categories. Now, I learned this in various places, but these 5 personal needs of freedom, security, belonging, competency, and self-expressive, each one of them have key attractors, things that will always motivate, excite, and entice you to take action if they're a match with your personality. And they all have key stressors, things that will always cause stress, pressure, anxiety, sabotage, and get in the way, cause you to feel stuck predictably if they match up with your personality. And so I realized what I had to do was, if I'm helping someone lose weight or quit smoking or overcome a habit, that not only did I know what beliefs needed to change for them, but knowing those personalities gave me the key code of how to present the information to them, what to match it up with, and what to avoid that would cause them to sabotage and act out and rebel. And what I realized was I may have 2 different clients, and what works beautifully for one, what's the perfect intervention for one, could completely bomb for the other based on this. I'll give you a quick example. Some people are very freedom oriented, and you can ask yourself where you fall on this spectrum. If you're freedom, you want to do what you want to do when you want to do it. You don't want to be told otherwise. You love options, you love adventure, you love upside potential, and you hate feeling restricted, limited, or controlled. So when someone presents you with a new opportunity, if you're freedom, you're looking for like, is it going to be fun? Is it going to be adventure? Is there going to be lots of options, or is it going to like suck or be restricting, limiting, and controlling? But on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have what we call security-minded people. And security-minded people, they want to feel safe. They want to feel secure. They want assurance. They are afraid of risk, chaos, and uncertainty. So if you bring up a new idea to them, their first thought is it safe or is it not safe? Not, is it going to be really fun or is it going to be boring? They're thinking, is it safe or is it not safe? So their reticular activating system is looking for a very different set of things. So these 2 people, because they're so different, how I work with one, what works great with one would bomb with the other. The security person wants a very detailed, you're going to do these 3 steps in this order at this time, and this is how it's going to go. And when you tell them that, they go, oh, thank God, Now I don't have to worry about it. I can just relax, and I'm just going to follow Robert's very specific plan. But if I give that specific plan, let's say you're a smoker, and I say you're going to quit on April 9th at 12 p.m., you will have your last cigarette. If I tell that to the Freedom people, I'm guaranteeing they're going to smoke at 12:01 p.m. tomorrow just to prove me wrong. Guaranteed. That would be like bad elevator music in solitary confinement. They would feel tortured. They would crawl out of their skin. Absolutely doesn't work for them. They need a very open-ended, choose your own adventure, make it your own, customize it solution for them to stay relaxed enough to stay engaged. Because remember, if they're not relaxed, they clamp up. And once they clamp up, reason and logic don't work, and we've lost them. So they need a very different approach. So the approach that works beautiful for them, choose your own adventure, customize it, make it your own, millions of options so they can stay relaxed. If you put that on the security person, it would be like waking up in a dinghy in the middle of the ocean with no land in sight. They would have a meltdown. They wouldn't know what to do or where to go next or how to handle it. And so these again, are either one of these personalities better or worse? Not at all, but they're just different. And how you handle them, think about it like a combination to a lock. How you unlock their mind to get them to give you a green light, to give them a green light to make the change is very, very different. That's the genesis of where this whole how to read and lead others with integrity came from, was that piece. First with those different personal needs and the key codes for how to get agreement with them and how to get them to take action and how to get them unstuck. Then the second layer was knowing and being able to tell whether your nervous system or the nervous system of the person you're trying to communicate with is open or closed, and being really good at noticing that. And then if they are closed, how to get them to open back up. If they are closed, what caused them to clamp up and how to avoid it, how to get them to open back up. So for sales, things like that, it's incredibly economical. Because now if you want to connect deeply with a person, getting great rapport with them very fast, it's very easy to do. And you don't have to try a whole bunch of things. You can go to the 4 things you know are going to work every time. If you're trying to motivate yourself, you focus on the 4 things you care about more than anything else and align your goal with that, you're going to get a green light. And if you don't trigger any of those 4 stressors, you're going to be good to go. If you get stuck, I guarantee you triggered one of those 4 stressors. So if you know what it is, you know how to navigate. It's kind of like, folks, you ever drive down a country road and you have the sign that says, hey, sharp curve around, you know to slow down ahead of time, right? You can drive pretty fast, but then when you see that one part of the road, I live just at the base of the mountains from where NLP was created in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And so for those of you who know that road, there's this road 17, and it's really winding. It goes up over the mountain. And there's one part where the road is like, it's like a really, really steep turn, but all of us locals, we know it's there. So we can drive really fast, and then we know to slow down just in time, and we get through there really quickly. Communication is the same way. So a lot of what I'm teaching how to read and lead is how to work with yourself and not get stuck. So how to decrease friction, how to increase momentum. And then we build on other things from there. The cause of upset. We teach the structure of upset. Where does it all come from? When stuff happens and it bothers you, how is it that that is working? When you see the reactions and responses of other people and it just devastates you, what is causing that? It's you plugging your self-worth into the results. It's you making meaning about what they're doing. If you don't say hi to me, I'm now going to tell myself a story about what it means about me. And guess what? What you'll find out in that program is the meaning you make is always the same. I'll make it mean something about me that I already fear to be true. And then my nervous system goes. That's why I can go to Starbucks, and if they spell my name wrong and I'm in a what we call a disempowering story that day, like not good enough or not worthy, and they write Richard instead of Robert on my coffee cup, my whole nervous system goes, see, no one listens to me, no one likes me, no one respects me, no one cares. And I go right into that. And we've all had really silly moments like that where something happens and it triggers us. And so there's a structure to that. There's a pattern to that. I teach you that pattern in there. We help you undo it. So these are all the the missing pieces that are really, really critically important for getting real coherent behavioral change in a human being. That's why I created How to Read and Lead. So that's why I'm saying, if you're stuck, or if you need to get momentum with someone else or improve your communication, go there first and then add the practitioner. If things are going pretty smooth, maybe start with the practitioner and then add that later on. I hope that you got a lot out of this class. I will do everything I can to make each class better than the last, and I hope to see you all again soon. Bye, everybody.